We obviously learned a lot at that news conference. And Celeste, we're going to bring in Josh Kolsrud now, prominent attorney here in town. Josh, when something of this nature happens, how complicated is this crime scene? And when you literally have hundreds of cameras on the victim, Charlie Kirk, at that moment, how does that maybe make the case different than it otherwise would be?
Well, you have so much information to parse through. For example, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of hours of video surveillance angles. They want to, yesterday, for example, there was an allegation that maybe the shooter was being given signals, hand signals by somebody. And whether or not that's true, there's going to be a lot of allegations of something else going on. And today we kind of enter into the next phase of the investigation, which is who, if anybody, are the co-conspirators. And the reason why it's very relevant in this case is because whenever there is a political assassination, it triggers the Patriot Act, which was enacted after 9/11. And what that does is it allows law enforcement to have roving wiretaps. It also allows them to charge a conspiracy where they wouldn't ordinarily be allowed to do that. And I bring that up because Fox News reported today that Mr. Robinson, who is the alleged shooter, he put forth a lot of his ideas on Discord, which is a server that a lot of young people get involved with, especially in the gaming community. And if there were people in that group who were liking his posts about violence against Charlie Kirk, or they provided any type of material support, they will be charged with conspiracy in this case by the federal government.
That's interesting because that is new. When you think about how social media is intertwined, this is like a chat, website, and people game on it and they find community in some sort. It's interesting how it's all tied in and could potentially lead to co-conspirators in this case.
Yeah, and it's different because you wouldn't ordinarily believe that just liking a post could get you into trouble because it's your First Amendment right to say whatever the heck you want. But once the Patriot Act is enacted, right, it's triggered. The question is, does it enable a terrorist act? And the assassination of Charlie Kirk, by definition, is a terrorist act. So any material support, encouragement. So if somebody said, look, I'll post your manifesto, don't worry, that would be enough to charge that person with a conspiracy. After the shooting, if someone said, I hope all is well, we'll look out for you, that's enough to be charged with the conspiracy.
And so I want to get into where, in terms of what you've learned so far about the investigation and how far it went before perhaps the suspect was read his rights, the famous Miranda rights. What's your perspective there?
So the reason why that question is so important is because there was there's a Supreme Court case in 1984. It was New York versus Quarles, where there was an armed robbery in a grocery store, and a police officer came in and tackled the defendant, and they felt a holster on his side. It was empty. He said, "Where's the gun?" And the defendant pointed in the direction, and they found the gun. And it was later determined by the court that was a violation of his Miranda rights. But the Supreme Court said, no. Public safety trumps an individual's rights. So here, there's going to be a question of what did law enforcement do once they apprehended Mr. Robinson? Did they go the route with the public safety exception and say, who was involved? Where are they? Which guns? Where are the guns? Where are the explosives? And they're allowed to do that under the public safety exception. But the defense attorneys are going to say, well, hold on here. It's only the threat has already stopped. It's been 2 days. You're asking questions that may not be involved to the immediate threat. So it's going to be very interesting to see how law enforcement went about questioning the suspect in this case.
And you bring up a good point, because I think when we were carrying the FBI press conference live on AZAM at 7 a.m. this morning, that's what we were waiting to hear. And we haven't heard all of those details yet. What were the details in terms of when they approached him? Did he say something to them? Did he not? Did he fully cooperate with the authorities? What was that whole thing like? And so you bring up a good point that is really, I think, what people are waiting to hear about.
Yep. So there are a few things that we know right now. Number one, media reports say that Mr. Robinson confessed to his father, and we certainly have motive available as well. His father said that his son had become more political, especially saying things directly against Charlie Kirk. And not only that, but his father is a former law enforcement, retired. Again, according to reports, dropped him off at the police station. And that's kind of where the information stops. You know, law enforcement has been very close-lipped, which is a good thing in a case like this, about what happened after Mr. Robinson's father dropped him off at the police station. And, you know, the father did that obviously because it was a safety risk for his son to be anywhere. He was the most wanted man in the world until this morning.
Well, here we are. We're up against a break already, Josh, but I've already learned so much from you. One other quick question, though. In the era that we live in now, not just social media, not just everybody's got their phones out, but cameras are everywhere, is the fact that when they went to go get him, he was still wearing the clothes that we've all seen in the surveillance pictures. And by the way, he still had that gray Dodge Charger sitting around. Are those kinds of things almost... they're clearly admissible, but does that bolster the case dramatically?
Well, it tells me that the shooter wanted to get caught, and he wanted people to know that it was him. He took no effort whatsoever to disguise the fact of who he was in relation to that famous picture of the blurry picture of the suspect that everybody was looking for.
Okay. All right. Josh, Celeste. Josh is such a great guest.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
A wealth of knowledge,
Yeah,
Josh. I
no
know
kidding.
you really dig into all the details and all the info. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
coming
Josh.
on.
And I'm sure we'll have you on multiple times on this case as well. Josh has helped us get through a lot of other cases and understand the legalities.